Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Courtney Riley.
I hope everybody enjoyed their lunch. Saku Tuominen is a visionary global entrepreneur who has built his career on creativity and innovation. He teaches disruptive innovation at Helsinki University, is a prolific author, and is currently focusing his energies on improving K12 education around the world. His company, 100, is identifying, codifying, sharing, and ultimately enabling the scaling of the most promising K12 innovations globally. We are excited that he flew halfway around the world yesterday to share his inspiring and impactful work with us today. Please welcome Saku.
Amazing. Good afternoon. Thanks, Courtney. Thanks for the Walton Family Foundation. Thanks for the organizers of the amazing event. It's a great pleasure to be here. Before going into the main topic, which I have a short introduction of myself, my biggest passion for more than 30 years has been making great things happen. Not only coming up with ideas, but also implementing those ideas. I founded 3 or 4 companies. I have created roughly about 100 TV formats. I have been running creative teams in 17 countries. I've written 10 books about human mind, about creativity. I've been teaching innovation in Helsinki University. I've been consulting companies and so forth. And my big passion is, like mentioned, not only coming up with ideas, but A, implementing them, and B, trying to make them scale. And today's topic which I have is scaling innovations in K12, Mission Impossible. And I'm trying to condense, like roughly about 4 or 5 years ago, we decided to concentrate only on education. And I tried to condense everything that we have been doing during the past 4 years in 25 minutes. And I think that that's another Mission Impossible. But let's see what happens. I've been visiting events like this, not as great as this, but events like this in all continents. I've been discussing with principals, I've been discussing with authors, I've been discussing with teachers and so on. And pretty much everywhere in the world, in every country of the world, there's a kind of like common, everybody seems to agree, is that there's a need for schools to change. And I don't disagree. But I think that when you go to schools anywhere, in Helsinki or in Salt Lake City or in Mumbai, New Delhi, actually schools are changing. So the point is not that schools are not changing, schools are changing. But there's a problem. The world is changing faster than schools. And that's the core problem we are having in all continents. And I can give you one example from Finland. In Finland, we made the decision 2 years ago is that we start to teach coding in Finnish schools. And I think that that's a bold, great decision. But then once you make that kind of decision, the first thing you have to do is that you have to decide, what do you mean by coding? Then after that one, you have to start creating some kind of reliable, great material on the coding. Then you have to educate teachers in order to be able to teach coding in that way. Then you have to convince every principal and so on. And after that one, that kind of coding doesn't exist anymore. So that's sort of like the key problem we are having in schools all over the world. And that's why we've been interviewing hundreds of people in all continents. And we've been asking the same question from each and every one of them. Does the current way of education fully prepare children for the 21st century? And not even once have we found a person who fully agrees and says that yes, we do. So everyone agrees is that there's something wrong with the education system in every country, even in Finland. And I'll show you one short clip of one interview which we did with Mr. Ken Robinson.
I think it's hard to generalize confidently about all education systems everywhere. Education is, taken as a whole, is what theorists refer to as a complex adaptive system. What I understand by that is that it's complex in the sense that it's a human system which includes millions of people, some of them students, some of them teachers, some of them administrators, some of them policymakers. It's complex in the sense too that they all have different interests. They have their personal interests, but they have different professional roles, they have different affiliations, they have different responsibilities. So it's a vastly complex reciprocating system, not a single system. And of course there are all kinds of cultural differences then when you move from one country to another one. Each school in any system has its own character and personality. Each classroom is subject to the dynamics of individual teachers and their particular students. It's a dynamic system, not a static one. It's not like an impersonal or inert engineering system. It's one that's constantly in flux and changing. It exists in the actions and activities of people every day. So although the term's a bit abstract, the actual system is living and constantly changing. It's subject to all kinds of conflicting force and fluctuation. Like new technology is tearing through education in many respects and subverting many of the ways people are connecting with each other. And it is subject to quite profound change. And within the system, there are people who are operating within certain sorts of models and others who are, even in very traditional systems, are innovating and doing creative things which other schools are not doing. So you can find examples of tremendous innovation within the current array of systems as they are.
You can find a huge amount of clips like this from our website if you want free to use and so on. But when you are trying to change the education system, I think that you have to be at the same time extremely ambitious because it's a bold challenge we are facing in all continents. But at the same time, you have to be extremely humble because to change education is extremely complicated because it's an ecosystem, all the countries are different, the traditions are different, societies are different, and so on. The good news is that the world is full of great education innovations. You go to Salt Lake City, you go to any country in the world, you go to any city in the world. There's amazing things happening in classroom today as we speak. So that's the good news. The bad news is that no one knows about them. So if I would be asking from you is that which one of you know about the innovations that are happening in Finnish schools today, I think that almost none of you could mention not even one example. And I think that that's amazing. And that's something which we have to change. So there's a saying is that whatever happens in Las Vegas stays in Las Vegas. And I think that that's exactly the case with education. Meaning whatever happens in a classroom stays in a classroom. And it's interesting, I have a daughter who is 16, and when I'm following her life is extremely international. All the websites she's using, all the videos she's using, all the groups she belongs to, international. Except when she goes to school. School is extremely national. And it's amazing, if we are thinking about what are the key skills one should be teaching in schools, almost everyone mentions is that globalization, global skills, understanding differences and so on. But that's exactly a thing which we are not doing. So what we are doing in 100, we are seeking and sharing inspiring innovations in K12. I will explain you in a minute what do we mean by that one. But what is our mission is to put spotlight on great things that are happening in schools today. So what we are not doing is that we are not trying to force new stuff into the schools. We are trying to identify great things that are already in schools and happening. Because innovations, like I mentioned, innovation has been one of my biggest passions for many years, many decades. And there's an interesting thing with the innovations. And that thing is most of the innovations actually doesn't work. Roughly about 80% or 90% of the innovations actually don't work. As the case is exactly the same with startups. Most of the startups go to bankruptcy. And if we are pushing new stuff to the school all the time, we are messing up the whole system. And at the moment, and still at the same time, we need to do something. So what is our approach is not trying to force something new, but to identify great things that are happening. What kind of innovations are we looking for? We are looking for innovations in 5 extremely broad categories. Skills. What kind of skills should one be teaching in school and how? So not only new skills, but also existing skills from mathematics to history and so on, but in a new way. How should you teach these skills? How should you re-educate our teachers? How should you facilitate the learning process? Assessment, huge area. What is the future of testing? What is the future of assessment? What is the future of self-assessment? Environments, either physical environment or digital environment or social environment. And lastly, leadership. What kind of leadership innovations do you have happening either in an international level, national level, city level, school level? So we are looking for innovations in all these 5 categories. And what are the main criteria for us? We have 3 criteria. First of all, innovativeness. Is it bringing something new to the education system? Secondly, impact. Does it work? And thirdly, scalability. Could it work in someplace else? So not everything has to work in all the continents, in all the schools, but it should work at least somewhere. And if one of these criteria is not present in the innovation, we are not excited. So for example, if something is innovative and has impact, but it cannot work anywhere else, not for us. If it's innovative and scalable, but doesn't work, obviously not exciting. If it's impactful and scalable, but kind of like old school, not grateful. So all of these 3 has to be present when we are selecting innovations. 100 is a non-profit initiative. We are funded by companies like Nokia and Supercell, Finnish foundations, and so forth. We are backed by all the leading operators in Finnish education system. We are backed by the government of Finland, by the National Agency of Finland, the Teachers Union, all the leading universities. And we have a lot of international partners, GSV being one of them, BET, IDEO, Ashoka, XQ, and so on. So like mentioned, we are non-profit, we are open source. And what do I mean by this? Being present, being part of the 100 is always for free. We are doing all the work we are doing for spreading innovations always for free. We are not asking any fee anywhere. And all the know-how, all the insights, everything we are getting, we are giving to the world for free. So what is it that we are doing? We have divided everything we are doing in 6 areas. First of all, seek. We are seeking great innovations in all continents. And it's a painstaking process, and I'm going to be getting back to that one. We are running a workshop today between 3:30 and 5 on the other side of the road, but I'll explain you in detail how are we looking for the innovations. But we have a team, we have partners, and so forth and so forth. Then once we find something which is great, we are analyzing whether it's really working. We are doing interviews, we are discussing with experts, and so on. Then after that one, we are selecting the best ones. Then once we have selected, we are doing the packaging. We are not leaving the packaging for teachers because the main expertise of the teachers is not packaging. We are doing the packaging so that everything looks understandable, beautiful, and so forth. Then we are working hard to share it. And I think that this is an area where we have to be extremely humble because, as we all know, pretty much none of the innovations in education have been scaling. And lastly, we are creating a community around every innovation, and we are co-developing the innovations which we have selected. At the moment, we have 100 innovations up and running in Finland. And we've been following them for 1 year. And there's amazing things happening in schools. And I'll give you extremely briefly few examples and more on the workshop in a few hours. First, one example is that we created a gaming room inside one Finnish school. So what we did is that we selected the 50 best education games in the world at the moment. We went through all the apps, all the games, all the websites and everything, and we selected 50 of those. Then we created an extremely cool environment for Finnish kids so that whenever they are having a break in the schedule, or they come to school early, or they have to be staying late, what they can do is that they can be learning by playing games, and then we are following whether there's learning happening, has been great. Former Finnish President Martti Ahtisaari won the Nobel Peace Prize, and he's been mediator for world peace in Middle East and so forth. So together with him, we are trying to replicate the process so that you can put kids to solve real-world problems with the real-world terms. So they are trying to learn how to listen, how to understand the differences, how to come up with ideas, and again, working brilliantly. Together with 100 Finnish celebrities, we created a project where they have to give an emotional thank you note on video to one teacher who changed their life. And then we ran all these videos in the biggest teacher event in Finland, and again, extremely emotional. And I think that all these three are examples which could be replicated in many countries of the world. Another idea we are having, Uber for parents. What do we mean by this? We mean is that there's many parents who would love to help their kids' school, and they have a special knowledge. For example, they can be an expert on solar energy. So they can create a profile on the app, and they can mention is that I'm more than happy to come to any school and give a lesson. And then they can say that I'm willing to do 2 lessons a week or 2 lessons a month or whatever. Teachers can grade them, can give them grades and so forth. And we are using this kind of innovations which we are testing daily in Finnish schools. What will be the big picture that we are doing? First of all, we are selecting, the Finnish project is only the starting point. This will be a totally global project. So we are selecting 100 amazing innovations annually. The first selection of 100 best or greatest, the most inspiring innovations in K12 education. The first package, the first collection will be released in September in Finland. But it will be in English and everything will be for free. Then we are setting up spotlights, meaning we can be putting spotlights on some specific areas, like spotlight on robotics, spotlight on empathy, or an area spotlight on Salt Lake City. And what does that mean? It means that we are selecting 10 innovations on that area or that topic, and we are giving background information, and again, we are sharing all the know-how with the world. Then we are having 100 open, so that any teacher, any principal, any edtech people can be pitching their own idea to the community to get feedback. Then we are organizing an event where we are inviting the best innovators in the world to come together to discuss not only about creating innovations, but also talking about sharing those innovations. And we are creating media services based on this one. So the media will be concentrating on only one topic, how to make innovation scale. So we are trying to identify great innovations, and then we are creating news about the stories when they spread. We have an international advisory board consisting of 15 people. We have Valerie Hannon from Innovation Unit UK. We have Pasi Salberg, who is here as well. We have Anthony McKay from Australia. We have Sandy Speicher from IDEO. We have experts from all continents. And first of all, we have our team who is going through innovations. Then we are discussing with a lot of experts. Then we are putting it to the advisory board, and only then we are selecting the ones that make it to the list. We are putting everything into a website. We have a current service up and running at the moment, but we are launching a totally new service in September. And our goal is to create something extremely beautiful so that you have a world map which is consisting of the best innovations in the world at the moment. You can click any dot and you get a beautiful package of each and every innovation so that any teacher anywhere in the world understand what is the essence of the innovation, how does it work, what was the cost, what were the pros, what were the cons, what were the learning outcomes, and so on. So in a way, what we are doing is that we are trying to create an extremely ambitious, but at the same time, tightly curated search engine for inspiring scalable innovations in K12. And like mentioned, all of them will be packaged beautifully. Where we are, like mentioned, we are having 100 innovations up and running in Finland and working perfectly, and we've been rehearsing, we've been doing our homework, we've been concentrating on this one for 3 years at the moment. But globally, we are having at the moment innovations from 127 countries, all of them amazing, all of them great. And the list at the moment is consisting of roughly about 500 innovations. And we go down from 500 into 100, which we really love. Again, details about this one in the workshop this afternoon. And all of this, when we are discussing about this, I'd say sometimes, depending on the audience, sometimes 80% are excited, sometimes 60% are excited, but there's always suspicious questions, and some of them are like, yes, but education is the only area in the world where scalability doesn't happen, and so on. And it is a difficult area. But what are the kind of like the two main questions we are getting asked again and again and again? First question is, how on earth do you know what is working in other countries? And my answer is, we haven't got the faintest idea. But that's not the point. What we are concentrating on one thing. It seems to be working in this country, and we have a feeling is that it might work in other countries as well. And the experts are the local experts. We are not the one who knows what works in Salt Lake City, but if there's a principal in Salt Lake City who is saying that actually it's brilliant, it would work in our school. We trust him because he's the expert. And I'll give you another example. I was pitching 15 examples of the things we are doing in Finland at the moment, in Denmark. And the audience was consisting of only teachers, Danish teachers. And they went nuts. They said, is that amazing, I love this, could I start implement these tomorrow, and so on. Then on the afternoon, I was discussing with the authorities. And they said, yeah, but I think that none of these would work in Denmark. Yeah, I was having a discussion with the teachers, and they were excited. Yeah, but Denmark is complicated. And that's kind of like, but that's exactly the way the change happens in any industry. There are people who are easily to say is that, yes, but that would never ever work. Same with Uber, same with Airbnb, same with any innovation. And I think that education is exactly the same. The change will happen, but it will take time. But we have to be humble and we have to be professional when we are scaling innovations. I'll give you one example. In Finland, we created a concept, ambitious concept, and the goal of the concept was this. The change that is happening in the world is huge. The way the robotics is changing, artificial intelligence, climate, global policy, and so forth. So we said, let's make an inspiring seminar for teachers where experts on these areas are explaining the change. So all the speeches are all about the change. Let's make teachers excited about the change, because if you're not excited about the change yourself, how can you make anyone else excited? And for free as a gift for Finnish teachers, and so that every speech can be streamed to every school in Finland for free, and all the lectures can be used in a classroom for free. Amazing success, fantastic. We've been doing it for 6 years, sold out in less than 1 day, sold out, it's only for teachers, but for free, and teachers love it. Amazing. So we said, okay, let's see whether it would work in other countries. We tested it in Sweden, fantastic hit. In Netherlands, exactly the same thing. Poland, exactly the same thing. Lithuania, exactly the same thing. And I'm convinced that maybe this concept would not work in 200 countries, all the countries in the world. But at least in 100, it would work. But what is the essence with this one is that we are not trying to scale something that is a guess, meaning that this might work. We have a know-how. In order to make anything scalable, first of all, it has to work in one area. Then it has to work in another area. Then it has to work on another continent. And slowly you're getting the confidence that actually this might work all over the world. And this is the essence of scaling, and I think that there's lacking professional attitude from the scaling in education, and that's one of the problems. But then the other question is, yeah, but this is naive, because in Finland you have independence, you have so much freedom, you could never ever do things like this in US or in UK or in other countries because the curriculum is so strict. Well, first of all, a lot of the innovations are not about curriculum. They're about leadership and so on. And for example, campus seminar is not about curriculum, it's something totally different. But then another thing in here is that if we are analyzing the success of Finnish education system, a lot of the innovations actually have been originated in the US. So if you cannot use innovations or ideas from Finland, we are more than happy to use your ideas. And so on. And I'll give you one example. One of the innovations, like mentioned, we are releasing the list of 100 innovations in September in Finland, maybe in the last week of September, the first week of October. But we released kind of like, we were testing the concept and we released a few first ones in London in January. And one of the first innovations we are having is big picture learning. And asking from you, which one of you know the concept? Fantastic. So, amazing things. We are all talking about personalized learning and so on. What they are doing is amazing. It might not work in every school. It might not work in every country. But at the moment, it's working roughly about 65 schools in the US. It's working in Australia. It's working in Italy. It's working in Netherlands, and so on. And when I go really deeply, I go through the details that they are doing. A lot of the know-how is something that the Finnish schools would immediately love to use because the thinking is bold and they've been doing it and it obviously seems to work. But if I would go to Finnish innovation seminar and I would say that, have you heard about big picture learning? None of them would have heard anything. So this is exactly what we are trying to do. We are trying to promote things which we are excited about, which we like, and which we have a feeling is that these are the things which might work all over the world. So briefly, before I stop, what are the next steps? In fall 2017, we will launch the first Global 100. All the innovations will be packaged in English in a beautiful way. Other language versions will follow in 2018. At the same time, we are creating an event in Finland where we are inviting all the innovators together to discuss about how to create the school of tomorrow. The first spotlight will be on Finland, which means that we are analyzing what makes the Finnish education system innovative. We are selecting 10 great innovations from Finnish schools, and we are giving all the know-how for every one of you. Then we are releasing our first 2 themes for spotlights. And then we are starting an ambassador theme, which means that our goal is to have ambassadors who are excited about spreading innovations, and our goal is to have ambassador in every country of the world by the end of this year. We are also having a world tour in 2017. We are going to 12 cities at least, where we are promoting not only the concept, but the great things that are happening in schools. So we are discussing about innovations, like the innovations in Finland, like big picture learning and so on. We are saying that these are the things that are happening in schools all over the world, and we are trying to get people, instead of complaining, we are trying to make people excited about the great things that are happening in schools in the world. But in the long run, what we are also planning to do is that our goal is that the core of this, the 100, will be non-profit forever. So that we are sharing, spreading everything for free. The platform, the service, everything for free. But we also might, in the long run, we might be adding services like implementation service or creative service that anybody can acquire. So that, for example, if there would be a country saying is that we are really excited about best innovations working against bullying, but we would love you to help on the implementation side, we are more than happy to do that one. And also, we are excited about help the best innovations if they need help. But that's never a requirement, and so on. And this is the goal what we are having. Our goal is to be the world's leading expert of inspiring innovations by 2020. And our goal would be is that if there's a teacher from Egypt, from Norway, from Venezuela asking is that what are the best innovations in robotics, in artificial intelligence, in building a new kind of school, in a school cafeteria, we should be able to say is that here are 5 great examples that are already working in the world in schools and so on. So this is what I wanted to say, and thanks for the opportunity. If you are excited anyhow, if you are excited about pitching your own ideas, if you are excited to be an ambassador, if you are excited to fund us, whatever, here's the contact information, and thanks so much for the invitation. Thank you.